Thank you very much. Nice report. Okay, Sammy, so you probably know this, and I'm going to read it out loud, but I might mess it up about 10 times, so we're going to hopefully get it right because it's a change in our routine here. But Sammy, you have the opportunity to cast a preferential vote on action items under student learning and achievement category. After an item is presented, I will ask for a motion. So trustees, I'll ask for a motion. Then I'm going to ask Ms. Rabin if she'd like to make a preferential vote, and then she can tell us how she's going to vote, and then I'll ask for a second. So that's kind of how it's going to work. Okay. And then if you don't want to vote, then just say I decline. That's fine. Okay. Any questions about that? We'll muddle through it. It'll work out fine, I'm sure. Okay. On to item number 8, student learning and achievement. This is Mr. Ben Cinto, information on emergency medical technician, EMT after school training.
All right. Good evening. We good? All right. Given the brevity of this board agenda, I plan to go on for a while. I just want you guys to be ready. No, very exciting. I'll be brief tonight. But this, what I really consider opportunity, was born out of a semi-clandestine meeting in my house this summer, believe it or not. Yvonne Vosi, our community liaison, actually made a connection with somebody she's known for a while here in town, David Wignall, who used to, or does this in the adult ed sector, and had a kind of initial year in Vallejo Unified, breaking into K-12. And she connected him with me. We met over the summer and kind of really got the ball rolling. And I talked to Dr. Wilson and Andy about this opportunity that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. So basically, we are hoping to offer this EMT program either before school, after school, whatever works, for students who are interested and apply. Here's kind of general overview of the program, and just some quick highlights. Is what I like best is it's training kids and moving them towards licensure. So if you know the world of career technical education and badging and certificates and then certification, this is something that's accelerating the path towards actual certification, which is a pretty big deal. What I also like is they work through simulations, and it's conducted by people who are in the field, and it's very hands-on. So assuming it passes tonight, we have 2 student information sessions planned for next week. We have a parent information session planned for next week. And from there, we would commence with these classes, depending on what the students who elect to participate, what works for their schedule. So we wanted to be sensitive to that in the onset because we want it to be successful. So that's just a brief overview. So those are the details. That's what it looks like. And mind you, this is not for school credit. This has actually very little to do with the school. We're just we're providing a home. We're providing an opportunity for students. So it's not during school hours, not for school credit. It's completely outside of our school day. But that's what it looks like, and that's required for certification. And students acquiring those kind of seat hours and practical hours have to do those 182 hours. And we have 22 spots because this year, the best part of this program is it's completely free for us. And that's an opportunity. I even received an email from Calistoga the other day asking if we had any open spots for some of their students, because it's something that they're looking to do as well. We've worked for years trying to grow work-based learning experiences, and it's been a challenge for various reasons. So this is a perfect work-based learning experience. So this is what's included. So kids get a name tag, a uniform, steel-toe boots. You know, they have liability insurance, their own learning management system, textbooks, all those things there. But what I like best is that whole 85% pass rate on the first attempt. So essentially, this is for students age 16 and up. You know, once they take that test, they are certified to actually go be an EMT, which, as you'll see in the next slide, is a perfect jumping board to other health-related careers. And we know that technical careers and health-related careers are the 2 most growing industry sectors, particularly in California, but even the Bay Area, to be more local. what we're also looking to do is potentially engage a semi-disengaged student population as well. If you're not doing something after school, if you're not connected to the school, here's another way to do it. This would be a good a kind of litmus test for kids. So if you're interested in becoming a firefighter, knowing that a bulk of fire calls are emergency medical technician calls, this would be a good test for you to test the waters and see if that's something that you're really interested in doing. And the medical field, as you know, it's not only wide, it's pretty deep as well. So I know a number of students that have, and they have other programs, so a medical assistant program, but this is the first time they're doing an EMT program. And it was something that we kind of drove as a school site because the target population that we wanted to hit. So I'm very excited. I'm excited it's free. I'm excited somebody else is kind of managing the whole thing, and I'm excited for our students that we can afford them this opportunity. And it's a win-win. So any questions?
Is there any public comment first? Trustees, questions, comments?
Just what? So the 182 hours, when you say it's before school, is it like a Monday through Friday thing? Would it be?
So it could be anything. So,
Okay.
Originally when we met with them, we talked about after school, but a number of kids that are participating in sports. And then, we do have some zero period classes. What they want to do is when they come in and meet with students who are interested is to really try and, they can tailor it any way. So because the people on their staff are, either former EMTs or part-time EMTs or whatever, they can kind of tailor it to what our needs are, which is even better.
Thank you.
Because we want to make sure we fill all 22 seats.
And so with this, so 16 and older, it sounds like, are the ones who can participate, the students that can participate. And then you mentioned Calistoga. Would they be eligible to be part of this time to fill the seats if needed, or what do you?
Potentially.
Yes,
That would be a bridge we would have to cross, I assume, since we would have other students on our school campus. But since they carry their own liability insurance, and I'm sure there's a way to work it out. But I don't imagine we're going to be short.
Short, okay. Yeah,
because that
that's
covers a
great.
pretty large section of students.
Right.
It's not like 17 or 18, so a lot of juniors and seniors.
Perfect. Yeah, it is. Anything else? I think it's a great program. I think it's fabulous. Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Do you know if the certification, is it valid just once they pass the cert? They don't have to like retest or retake it at any time?
I'm not sure about retesting. I know it's accepted, I believe, in like 48 states, though. So it crosses over beyond California.
Mr. Cinto, I believe with this type of certification, there are continuing hours required to maintain a certificate in any of the EMT firefighter field.
As things change and
Yeah, usually the certification.
Yeah, a little bit on that.
anything else? Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We're on to item number 8B, which is presentation of the 2018-19 Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP, for those of you. District goals. Mr. Heller.
Tis I. Thank you. Good evening. In the 2018-19 Local Control Accountability Plan, I would like to call up our 3 main goals to review them. And as I call them up, I will recite them by memory. Increase levels of engagement, increase student achievement, and maintain conditions of learning. Which is slide 2. Yay, are we good? Is that me? No, it's not me, okay. And within those 3 goals, as the board knows, we have developed an action plan with several actions underneath each goal to address these 3 main goals. And part of the process with the Local Control Accountability Plan is we have a LCAP steering committee. We have several committees that provide information for district staff to review in terms of meeting these goals. And I also provide a monthly board presentation that highlights a component of our action plan that would be of interest to provide an update for the board to see how we're making progress. So at this time, I did not share this in August, but I would like to share it tonight. Here's the layout of the presentations for the year. Tonight we're going to address summer school and academic support that we have throughout the year, including interventions for students. In October, we will talk a little bit more about the MTSS multi-tiered system of support. In November, we'll give a report on our special education services, as that was one of our areas identified in the dashboard where we needed to make growth. December, we will present on mathematics, and as the board recalls, last year the principals gave monthly presentations on that, and now we've moved to having that just be a monthly presentation within the LCAP overall. January will be an update on technology and ILEP. February will highlight district enrichment programs, parent engagement in March, and then we'll have a stakeholder report in April, presentation in May of the draft LCAP, and then hopefully we are adopting next year's LCAP in June. Okay? And so for the summer school part of the presentation, I'd like to turn it over to Director of Curriculum Instruction, Mary Ellen. And you just point at me and
I'll just point to you. Good evening, everybody. Before I go into the summer school report, I just would like to thank all the teachers that participated in summer school and Michelle Ortiz, our classified staff, who really did a fantastic job of coordinating and helping me out during the summertime. So kudos to all of them. First part you see is special ed. For our summer school program, we had a lot of hands-on fun activities for them, and they were really engaged. I just want you to see the one on the right corner, upper corner. You'll see robotics. We actually had some of our kits that we used in our STEM camp brought over to our special ed camp for some of our students that were capable of putting those together. So it was really exciting. And then we have a solar oven. You can see the clay and pottery and then sewing. So a lot of life skills, a lot of hands-on activity. Mary O'Donnell and Peter Macaulay run our summer school program. They did a great job. Next is the St. Helena High School summer school program. We have the speed and strength training that we've had for years, and that runs 5 days a week for approximately a month and a half, and we have an average of 45 students that do that strength and speed training. And then you can see the math remediation and the credit recovery. Again, it's always a hit or miss at the high school with having an Apex online system, and we haven't quite figured out the magic touch yet. So if you have any questions related to that, Mr. Cinta will certainly come up and answer any of those questions. But we know it's an area we need to focus on. We know it's an area that is not doing what we would want it to do for all of our students. Robert Louis Stevenson, we had 2 programs scheduled. We had the STEM, which was going to be the STEM camp for 6th through 8th grade, one in June and one in August, and I'll get to that. But I do want to share the program that was very successful at the middle school, which is our English language development. Dana Simon is the person that taught this, and she did a great job. It's all of our 6th through 8th grade EL students, English learners, who would like to attend summer school. Nobody's kept out. And we had approximately 17 kids that came on a consistent basis. They read a book, as you can see, and then they did a lot of close reads, text deconstruction, and then worked on creating fun recipes and actually eating those recipes. And so all of this was done to build their language skills, and it was just a phenomenal program, and I went there a lot, and the kids truly were engaged. She did a fantastic job. For the elementary school, we have a summer session. We've done it. We did it different this year. We had third, fourth combo. We had a fifth, sixth combo. 2 teachers, an hour and a half. Half of the kids would be in math, and then they'd flip, and an hour and a half they'd be in English. And always during the summertime, some of the main areas that we see for math are fractions. So really focused on fractions. And then for the English component, what we were looking at was the map data, and it was a lot of narrative text mapping and cause and effect. And so focused on those areas. Kids were engaged, and we had 4 teachers. We had Ashley Wright, Gina Mead, Eduardo Moreno, and Angie Bon as our 4 teachers for the summer school. And we had approximately 28 consistent kids for 3rd and 4th and 32 consistent for 5th and 6th. In our early back, those are the cutest ones. Super cute program, and Magda Guerrero and Missy Gott were our teachers this year. And basically, it's just helping those little ones get used to school, get used to the routine, get used to the school site, get used to being away from mom and dad, and just kind of working on number recognition, letter recognition. And they do a great job, and you can never not be happy going in that class. So they did a great job. And then our STEM program, which was new this year, we had scheduled 2 STEM camps. It would be at the elementary school in the morning and the RLS in the afternoon. That was our intent. We were going to do it in June and August. What happened is we had approximately 18 to 19 students sign up for the middle school and the elementary school, and unfortunately, this has been a pattern we've seen at the middle school. We didn't have the enrollment that we thought we were going to. We had 6 students through the June session in RLS and 10 students with the elementary, so we had to combine the 2 STEM programs into one. And then for August, we had 19 students, 4 students from RLS. Again, we had 18 or 22 show up, sign up for that, and we had 4 show up. And this was doing several phone calls ahead of time saying, are you going to show up? Are you going to show up? And we had 4 show up, so we had to combine that one. But as far as the program, it was run by a program out of Walnut Creek, and it's called Mad Scientists, and they worked on red hot rockets and also 3-2-1 blast off. And the kids, every time I went there, they were engaged. As you can see, they were building the robotics, and these were not easy. I mean, I looked at the instructions, I looked at the multiple pieces, and I'm like, if they can do that, that's a skill in itself. And they did a great job. So I was pleased with what they provided. I just wish we had more students.
And to kind of close out summer school before we go on to the academic support component, some of our next steps is as Mary alluded to, is to evaluate APEX. We are considering the option of seat instruction, of having an instructor, but as always with this, enrollment would be an issue, and we would want to make sure that we maximize an opportunity to have an instructor in front of students. And also I want to survey some high school students to get the feedback of why they started and maybe stopped, or why they might be credit deficient and didn't come, so to get some more user feedback at that level. And Mary and I have also volunteered to enroll into an APEX class ourselves and see what it's like for users, and to see if it's something that we find as user-friendly. Even though that STEM enrollment was a little discouraging and we had to combine the two, it was the first year and it was a pilot, and having 19 and 16 students was more than we had before to encourage students. So I think we could continue to promote the STEM classes and the STEAM opportunities in the summer. And I'm actually encouraged by the numbers, and hopefully we'll get more traction and get more students involved next summer. And also just continue to have discussions with principals about what best serves them and their sites, and to use that feedback to develop next year's program. So those are our next steps in summer school. Very quickly, I know the board's aware of a number of different academic supports that we provide our students, that there's a myriad of different supports and activities, and I just want to highlight a few in each of our major focus areas. Down at the bottom on designated English language development, one of the things that will happen this year is that each principal will provide the board an update on their services for ELD and English language development for students. The board may recall in June that we had a 2-day training with West Ed on those particular topics that all administrators went to the year before, and we're looking to see how those strategies are implemented to support our second language acquisition. So tonight's presentation will be by Mr. Cinto, who promised to be brief, as he mentioned earlier. So I wanted to highlight that. Also in mathematics, highlighting all the different intervention supports that we have that are absolutely amazing to continue the growth mindset that's become become our math mantra, and also to let you know that the math task force will continue on for a third year. And I feel very honored to be a part of that committee. I think we've made some really strong inroads in our mathematics approach and instruction. And also in academic supports, I just like down at the bottom there to highlight the multi-tiered system of support, which is a training that all administrators and several staff went to this summer in Sacramento. And I don't want to foreshadow the presentation, but you'll get more information on the implementation and what MTSS is about next month. And we'll take an opportunity for any questions at this point.
Okay, do we have any public comment? Trustees, questions, comments?
So I have a couple of questions regarding the summer school at the high school specifically. So for the math remediation, was that both? I'm not sure. Well, both. So both credit recovery and acceleration then?
Yeah, I think acceleration. I believe there was only one student because that actually starts fourth quarter.
Okay.
So, but in the summertime, we afford students the opportunity to remediate a D rather than just make up an F. So that's the only time we do that as well. Okay. So it includes that student population.
Okay. And then so how many students were actually invited or?
Yeah, I talked to the counselors today. I think for mathematics, it was only about 12 because students actually, what I would say, one, we had fewer students getting D's and F's last year, which that reduces your pool. But two, we had a number of students who knew that it wouldn't be the best option for them, knowing that they need more seat time and instruction because, you know, it covers all math levels. So we can't have one person teaching directly every single day. And these are students who are typically already struggling in math, so they know that an online independent program really, regardless of who's there to help, and is not going to be the best option for them. So they conscientiously made the decision not to pursue it.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then so for the credit recovery for like the English, humanities, history, those. So if a student, and I'll say like the students that are in like English 9 or, you know, and if they don't get the credit recovery, do they repeat that? That's their sophomore year?
Yeah, so they're in independent study this year. Yeah, some of those students might have been, you know, they waited to do that during their junior year. So, you know, maybe they were credit deficient for a number of classes. So yeah, so then they're enrolled in independent study throughout this school year, the ensuing school year. But
for just that specifically that subject.
Yeah, yeah. And once they're done, they're done. So they don't have to continue on with that. We have a number, and what I'd like to say is a number of those students who didn't, you know, do the summer work, and because, you know, they weren't fully invested in it over the summer, have really turned it on this school year as well, which has been really nice to see. It's hard. I can't get the analogy of Apex summer school. You know, it's really more about the students that do improve versus the students that don't improve, because it's not direct instruction. You know, if I were to come up here and say, hey, I've got a plan for about 10 more kids to become CSU eligible, I mean, that would be awesome. And that's what it really is for that student population is fixing the D's, getting back on track. And I know we weren't as successful as we'd like, but it really is about having that as an option. But we're looking at other means as well to make it more effective.
And now, just in the last question, for the independent study, is that then with
Ms. Ray?
With I was going to say, is it with? And I wasn't even thinking. It was like with a teacher, kind of
every day
on there. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a period in their day.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Trustees, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I do.
Please.
I guess for elementary school, just because there was such a high enrollment for 3rd and 4th and then the 5th and 6th, is the progress being measured, or is there a way to see like how the summer schools affect them as they're incoming, you know, the following year? Or are you guys able to kind of track and see if it's improving those students?
What we're using is the MAP data, so the measures for academic progress. So we looked at the end of last year where they were, and we'll be looking at the data at the beginning of this year to see. It's 2 weeks. You can't really make a huge impact in 2 weeks, but we're hoping to have made an impact. We certainly paid attention to the math and the English where they needed some help.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Interesting.
The MAP scores were just done, so I'll bring that up.
I know from teachers as well, so in addition to the academics, to have some of the third graders come in and get familiar with the school and the system, they found that some of those students are the ones that are really successful and that are making some quicker progress, just having made that connection. And those are students that were also struggling academically, so that we've wondered about looking at academics and some of the social emotional reasons that might qualify them for the incoming third grade in the future also.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustees, any other comments, questions?
Another quick comment on the summer programs. Yeah, I think it's a good step. A lot of families maybe didn't know, and that's why you guys didn't have such a high rate. But I mean, my two boys went, and they really enjoyed it. They liked the projects that they were doing, and they brought them home, and we got to explore and play with them. So I think it's for the future. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to hopefully continue that.
And just to piggyback off that, and I think you responded to that as well, like with the phone calls. So I'm assuming, do the kids sign up in the school year? Like, are they the ones filling out the piece of paper saying, I want to do this class over summer? And then then something goes home, I'm assuming, that says my child will participate?
Exactly,
Okay.
and we did,
Okay.
and we did several phone calls for the June as well as the August, and we had a lot of commitment verbally from the parents and the students. But
Right.
things come up, but I
Sure.
do think it will be better next year, and we're certainly going to put the information out sooner this year.
Yeah, I heard great feedback as well on the
Yeah.
program. So
And it was helpful. Michelle emailed at the beginning of the summer, and then we signed up for the August one, but she called and emailed like the week before, and so that was good to have, just as a reminder.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
And I'd also like to add in that Apex is challenging. We all think that the young people today are going to get on a computer and just jam, and they're going to go for it, and it's really hard. It's in-class instruction or in-seat is so much easier, and it's kind of funny. I can only relate to my kids. One of them did the online driving test thing, and I mean, it was all he could do to get it through. And the other one went to class that we had, and it was, they're like, okay, well, you go through and you do all that. But it's just interesting to me because I thought that he would just sit there and just, I'm just going to knock all this stuff out, and they just don't. It's just, and I commend you guys to take it and to see what you think. But that mindset of I think it's a lot harder than we think to do that. Without an actual instructor kind of motivating you and leading you, and teachers, right?
I do want to echo what Jeff said because I'm well connected with one of the students that did the math acceleration, and it was very, very, very difficult, and she was turned off to taking any online course in the future throughout her life. So it is challenging, but it's an option, but it's not easy.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Now we're on to item 8C, which is the 2018-19 LCAP infograph.
Yes. Last year, I learned of a company called Doc Tracking that provided an online template to help us fill in the LCAP information. And this was very user-friendly for myself, Andy, and Mary, so we could keep track of, we didn't have to send each other the latest edition and forget which one was the latest edition to continue working on. So there was a benefit there for us to complete the LCAP online and have it saved in an online warehouse. But one of the benefits of the doc tracking was that it created this infograph based on our information that provides a little bit of visual representation on the cover sheet, and then it also goes through and aligns our budget with our goals and actions on the subsequent sheets. So there's a little bit of visual, and then there's also kind of an LCAP, what we have been calling an executive summary, that is a lot easier to read in 6 pages than the other volume that is presented each year for your review. So tonight's is just a presentation to show the board. If the board has some suggestions or feedback, that would be great. And if there is none, then we would like to upload this to our website and the school websites as well for stakeholder review.
Any public comment? Trustees, questions or comments?
I thought it was really great. Personally, I thought it was when I looked at it, was like one of 6 pages. I thought that was a mistake because I was so used to so many pages. But I think it's nice and succinct and easy to digest the information. I thought it was nice.
Okay.
Yeah, nice presentation. Yeah.
It's easy to read and understand. I'm sorry. I think it looks good. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I like it too. Thumbs up. It's easy to read and concise, and sure beats 100 pages that you send me to read. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
Thank
we got
you.
direction there.
Thank you.
Next is item D, which is a written report on the 2018-19 English Language Learner Master Plan. Trustees, you've all had an opportunity to read this. So first of all, I'm going to ask if there's any public comment on this written report. Trustees, any comments or questions concerning this? Everybody comfortable?
No, I do not have any.
Okay, I don't see any. Okay. Now we're on to public hearing of sufficiency of instruction materials and Williams Settlement Instruction Materials and adopt resolution 18-10.
And this public hearing and resolutions in alignment with California Education Code 60119 and the Williams Act settlement to ensure that each pupil in the St. Helena Unified School District has been issued the properly aligned curriculum to meet state standards. The attached documents are certifications of the curriculum distribution as reported by the sites and verified by the principal. And the additional rosters for verification from the primary and elementary school are new as they verify the issuance of consumable materials that are aligned with state standards. So they're not textbooks, but they're consumables. So at this point, I would request that the board conduct a public hearing and approve the adoption of the resolution to verify the information provided tonight is valid.
Okay, the public hearing for the 2018-19 Sufficiency of Instructional Materials is now open at 6:39 p.m. I get to go like that. During this public hearing, comments should be limited to the sufficiency of instructional materials. It is our goal to hear from all who wish to be heard. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees on the sufficiency of instructional materials. Wait a minute. Okay. I've been instructed that I must wait a minute. Okay, my phone changed, so it's now 6:40. Governing Board has heard your comments and concerns because there were none, and thank you for no input. So, at this point in time, trustees, any questions, comments? None? Okay, is there a motion to approve the adoption of resolution? Oh, am I going too fast?
She comes after the motion.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nicely done.
All right. Everybody's on pins and needles now with this new alignment now. I like it. I know. Now I'm starting to beat up here. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of resolution 18-10, 2018-2019 sufficiency of instructional materials as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Raven, would you like to cast a vote on this agenda item?
I approve.
Is there a second?
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Did we do it right? Okay. All right. Maybe we'll get it. It'll be a little bit faster next time. Sorry, guys. Okay. Presentation on English learners at St. Helena High School. We're on 8F. Mr. Ben Cinto.
All right. Well, at first, I need to apologize because I'm slightly under the weather and completely sleep deprived. So I spoke of an analogy about summer school, and I know I'll get a chuckle out of Dr. Wilson for this one, but my analogy was it's like a mattress fundraiser. It's not about the ones you don't sell, it's about the ones you sell. So I told you about that, and then I forgot to say the analogy, so I had to make sure I get that in there on record. All right. So EL Master or EL Learner Program at St. Helena High School. So what I thought it would be best to do was to first kind of profile which students are we talking about at St. Helena High School? How many of them are there? What do they constitute? And I just thought it was interesting to find out that 80% of EL learners are Spanish speaking. So these are the students that we're talking about this year at St. Helena High School. So because we just reclassified 8 of them at the high school, which is really awesome, but more on that later. But pay attention just to the percentages as you see to the right. So we have 25 students out of 497. That's 5%. 40% of them are receiving special education services. 28% have been in the U.S. Fewer than 5 years. And there is the parent ed level background. So why do I share that kind of information? It just kind of broadens the view of the contributing factors. It's not just about language acquisition. You don't solve EL issues by just doing that one thing. So there's other factors that are contributing to the student's progression or reclassification. And then I kind of showed you at the bottom how many of our current students, and I see a little typo there, it should say 152 of 400. 152 students at our school have been reclassified. What's most important there is the last statistic. So for those students that have been in the school system, in U.S. schools for over 5 years, 99% of them are reclassified. So what does that tell you? The longer you live here, the more language you will acquire. Time is important. So that's just to paint a context. So in the development of our EL program, there are 4 principles of the EL roadmap. What I'm focusing on tonight is assessment data and the resources, kind of fitting into that whole multi-tiered system of support that Mr. Heller was talking about. So fittingly, the assessment and data we focus on is the data that's used to reclassify students. If we focus on something else, then we're off the mark. So that's different for each grade level. And I know this is kind of a messy slide, I apologize, but for 9th graders, it's their new LPAC score as well as their 8th grade CAST score. And they have to get a cut score you see there of equal to or greater than 2,540. So our current population, how many kids met that threshold who are EL? 0. So I didn't break that down further, but we have 0 9th graders reclassified based on 8th grade data. 10th graders, since we don't have CAST data for 9th and 10th graders, we have to use another measure, and that is grades, which you'll see. We had 2 10th graders reclassified, and moving up, same for 11th grade, 2 of 6. One student was receiving special ed services as well, and he was reclassified. But as you know, from the high school, by the time they get to 8th grade, in using CAST data with, basically a null gap between student populations, we had 4 of 7 reclassified, and the 3 remaining ones, STC student, another resource student, and another student who missed it by a mere 3 points. So that's awesome. I mean, chances of being reclassified while a student at the high school are very, very high, and that's something we should be really, really proud of. And I know the criteria will change, correct, Mary? Where'd you go? The state is setting up new criteria as we look to reclassify students, but by and large, we reclassify them. So what supports do we have? And these are, I stole language from the MTSS system, and this is the exact language that you'll end up seeing in October. But what is Tier 1? High quality instruction provided to all students. Again, all staff are highly qualified and trained in specially designed academic instruction in English. You know about the PD that happened at the close of the day. But again, I think this is something else that is validated through the CASP results in the ELA. Tier 2 interventions to small groups. You know, that's kind of how we've set up our system. Some new things this year that I'm really excited about is within our designated ELD, we actually have bilingual paraprofessional support. We also have paraprofessional support in our directed studies class. So you got to imagine with 40% of your EL students also special ed, you have to support them through more personnel. So our paraprofessionals are constantly pushing into other classrooms, but we make sure that our directed studies class has a paraprofessional there all 4 periods of the day. I've also, and actually I did not include it on this, our resource teacher has also become part of the math intervention, and he's pushing into Mr. Farrell's pre-integrated 1 class. And we also are using pretty soon one of our new Avid tutors to push into Mr. Farrell's 6-period pre-integrated math class to support kids with the greatest need. And there's a number of ELs in there as well. That's a lot. And then obviously math intervention. So what's our Tier 3? So Tier 3 is really your designated ELD, which we have 1 class of here at the high school. And fittingly, what that class does, it's twofold. Now we have 3 students that are here with absolutely 0 English. This is their first year in public school. So we have tailored a very specific program for them to make sure that we're meeting their most pressing need, which is language acquisition. So they are not following the standard St. Helena High School diploma track because it's not appropriate for them. Based on their educational background as well as their ability to speak English. So that's different. But we have that population in that class. We have kids that have been EL for some time as well. But what the teacher does is she supports their general education coursework, and this is what she's supposed to do. And we've also procured leveled resources by their achievement level. So if you're a level 1, you know, we have resources that help move you along, whereas if you're a level 3, you know, they have very different language acquisition needs. Again, I've already spoken to that's just a breakdown of the central topics that we covered in our 2-day PD at the close of last year. And I know there's a lot. Don't worry, I'm not going to speak to all of that. But what we as administrators are also being coached on and working on is how do we support teachers in the practices that are proven to improve outcomes for not just EL students but all students. And I thought it was important to keep all this information on here because it provides teachers the clarity, it provides me the clarity on what it is that we're supposed to be looking for, and it builds in a process to do that. Not from just pure accountability standpoint, but it builds a conversation, it gives everybody a target, and it's something we are all getting better at. We've obviously been working on EL for years and years and years, but this kind of narrows the focus a little more. We're seeing great results. We're doing well at reclassifying students, but we're not going to stop.
Any questions from the audience? Trustees, any questions, comments?
I do. I have one question. So this is kind of a bigger picture thing. So when you notice, I noticed when you mentioned that there were a couple students that didn't get reclassified their senior year. What happens to those students their senior year when they're not reclassified? Like kind of bigger picture. Are they, do they continue on into secondary, into college situation, or I mean, what usually is there out there?
Yeah. I mean, reclassification is something that is exclusive to the K-12 system.
Right, right.
It doesn't prohibit them from anything beyond high school.
Okay.
It's just our goal to a student, the special day class student is what he's going to be provided post high school is going to be very different. The student who missed it by 3 points, I know he's planning to go to junior college. So, yeah, it doesn't preclude anybody from any
That
future
was my
success.
that was my
Yeah,
question, and
no,
I didn't
not at
really
all.
know how to ask it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if they're college bound, then there's resources for them at different college then as well.
Sure. I mean, when you
Yes.
think about the basic structures of colleges, writers labs and math labs and those
Right.
kind of things, there's other support structures. But, and that's why I feel it's important to kind of paint a context of who we're talking about in terms of students, because resource students will that does continue on. IDEA does continue on at the college level and junior college level. So there's going to be other resources and accommodations for that student population to
Right.
achieve as well.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
For the students that came in this year, the 3 students, when appropriate, are they in the general classes? For example, something like PE. Are they?
Yeah,
able
they're
to do
they're in all general classes. It's just we don't force them to take the standard graduation requirements. Now, mind you, that's very if they've come from a background of having attended school, then absolutely we're going to try our hardest. We don't take that decision lightly. But one of the students went only up to grade 3. So he's had a huge educational gap over the last 5 years. He's not ready to enter an environmental science class. So I can tell you right now, one of the students he's in EL, he's in regular English, he's in guitar, he's in heritage Spanish, because a lot of times they don't have literacy in their home language as well. So we want to develop both of those things, because we know as we develop both, they strengthen each other. So we really tailor a schedule that's going to put them with experiences and people that are going to help nurture we don't want it to be a demoralizing experience. And as much as we want to get all kids college ready, it's just not appropriate for very specific students.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Is there any type of parent support for parents of English language? Like, are they just so that they can support their children's learning? Like, does someone meet with them, or?
Yeah,
do
I
they
mean, we have our standard ELAC meetings, and we try and really support the things that are, I mean, there's things that we have to do in our ELAC meetings, but over the years I've tried to make sure I'm receptive to the desires of the EL parent community, because they have questions that they want answered and concerns that they have for their children. So I try and accommodate those things as best I can, and do the things that I have to do as quickly as possible, but at the same time meet them where they're at. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the information. I found it very informative to have that report, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. We're on to item number 8G, which is adoption of resolution 18-11, Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd to 31st, 2018. I believe Trustee Kerr was going to read this one. Is that correct? Okay.
Resolution number 18-11 of the St. Helena Unified School District declaring Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through the 31st, 2018. Whereas the governing board of the St. Helena Unified School District values the health and safety of all individuals, and whereas substance abuse is particularly damaging to our most valuable resources, our children, and a contributing factor in the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers, accidents, homicides, and suicides, and whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and the St. Helena Unified School District to involve families, schools, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of this campaign, and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. And whereas the Red Ribbon Week campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or the illegal use of legal drugs. And now, therefore, it is resolved that the St. Helena Unified School District and all schools hereby support Red Ribbon Week and the positive reinforcement it provides our students and communities. And it is further resolved that the governing board of the St. Helena Unified School District hereby supports the proclamation of October 23rd through the 31st, 2018 as Red Ribbon Week in the St. Helena Unified School District and encourages its students, administrators, faculty, and staff to participate in drug awareness activities and make a visible statement that we are strongly committed to live a healthy life. Passed and adopted at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment? Trustees, any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Rayburn, would you like to cast a vote on this item?
I approve.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. We are on to item number 8H, which is adoption of Resolution 18-12 against bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. Trustee Olguin, would you mind reading that, please?
Sure. St. Helena Unified Resolution 18-12 of the St. Helena Unified School District against bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. Whereas St. Helena Unified School District supports the right of students and staff to attend schools that are safe and free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. And whereas providing a safe school environment that ensures both the physical and emotional safety of students and staff creates the conditions necessary to foster academic achievement. And whereas bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence, and even the fear of harm can create barriers to learning and contribute to low self-esteem, depression, anger, and in extreme cases, school violence or suicide. And whereas a safe school is one where teaching and learning are not distracted. Disruptions are minimized, drugs, violence, bullying, and fear are not present. Students are not discriminated against, expectations for behavior are clearly communicated, and consequences for infractions are consistently and fairly applied. And whereas the most effective approach to creating safe school environments requires a comprehensive, coordinated effort, including school-wide, district-wide, and community-wide strategies, where all institutions, organizations, and individuals accept responsibility for their critical roles and collaborate to establish a positive environment for teaching and learning. And whereas the month of October is National Bullying Prevention Month, which is a campaign in response to the need to raise awareness of bullying that provides schools and communities with an opportunity to educate students, parents, and others about their role in bullying prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of St. Helena Unified School District hereby support the goals of National Bullying Prevention Month and will work with a broad spectrum of local community stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, and staff to develop, implement, and monitor policies and programs that foster and support a positive school climate free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. Adopted this 13th day of September 2018 at a regular meeting by the following vote.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment? Trustees, any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Rayburn, would you like to cast a vote?
I approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are on to item number 9, Human Resources. Approve an additional of a 1.0 full-time equivalent FTE custodian number 2 position. And I believe it's going to be, if my computer, yes, Miss Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. During the June board meeting, we discussed staffing of our maintenance and operations division, and at that time I indicated that we might like to consider adding an additional floating custodian position. And so since then we've reviewed our staffing, and indeed I would like to recommend that the board approve an additional full-time custodial 2 position. This would be a nighttime position. It would be floating, and this position would be filling in for absences and vacation times, and then also providing more consistent support and cleaning for our Boys and Girls Club. And then with the remaining time, the position would be assigned to supporting district needs in the area of custodian, light maintenance, and light grounds across the district. And with a cursory review of the budget, I expect that we'll be able to absorb these costs without creating a structural deficit, and so this will be included in the first interim report that comes to the board in December.
Okay, is there any public comment? Trustees, questions, comments? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the addition of a 1.0 full-time equivalent custodian 2 position as presented?
I motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm on to item number 9B, which is the grant approval to replace the 1.0 FTE maintenance specialist HVAC energy management position. Board approved June 21st, 2018 with a 1.0 FTE maintenance specialist position. Miss Andy Stubbs, please.
Thank you. And also during the June 21st, 2018 board meeting, the board did indeed approve a full-time position for an HVAC specialist. The position has been posted since June 22nd, and to this date we haven't established a viable candidate pool. I think it has to do with the economy and our location and so forth. And so I would propose that if we are not able to establish a viable candidate pool by the end of September, that the board grant approval for us to replace that position with a full-time maintenance specialist. And so this would be the entry-level position, and one for which we already have a job description within the maintenance division. And so then this person would be assisting our senior maintenance specialists across the district, and they would also be trained on how to replace filters and things so that we'd be able to reduce those costs that we currently have with our outside vendor that supports us with our HVAC needs.
Thank you. Any public comment? Trustees, questions or comments?
One question. Do we currently have a maintenance contract with Bell Products?
We do, and so currently they provide us with some maintenance support. Our staff also changes out filters and things like that, but they also come in and do repairs that are a higher skill level than any of our maintenance folks can do.
Okay. Is there any desire to shop that maintenance contract around?
We've been pretty happy with Bell Products for that need, but if we are able to replace the HVAC position with this position, we would make sure that this position was very involved in changing out the filters and probably allowing us to reduce that contract with Bell. And then also this position would be at a lower rate compared with the HVAC position that was originally approved in June, and so we'd see some savings there too.
Thank you.
So would the train be from Bell or in-house, or I'm just curious?
Our own staff currently could train this new position on how to change out the filters and things like that. And if we needed additional support from Bell Products, they'd be able to provide that as well.
Thank you. Any public comment? Trustees, questions, comments? Is there a motion to grant approval to replace the 1.0 FTE maintenance specialist HVAC energy management position with the 1.0 FTE maintenance specialist position as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. We're on to approval of contracts over $25,000, 10A. Miss Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. I've got 3 contracts to bring to you for consideration of approval this evening. The first would be a piggyback contract actually with Napa Valley Unified and Napa Valley Ford to purchase a 10-passenger van that has wheelchair accessibility for up to 2 wheelchairs. And this would help us with our current transportation program. The district has 2 vans, both of which are quite old and one of which has over 100,000 miles on it. And so we would be able to use this van to support our special education needs. In fact, recently we've been doing some cost analysis to see if we might use this type of a van to support some of our students who attend non-public schools. And then additionally, the purchase of the van would support extracurricular and co-curricular activities and our CTE programs as well. And we would be funding it in part through some career technical education grant monies, and then also out of our reserve in Fund 40, which is our special reserve for capital outlay. And if we can cursor up just a little bit there, I think that covers it for that particular item. And then so now if we can move down to the next contract. Down to the next The New Directions. And so this here is a contract with New Directions, which is a non-public school placement for one of our students who receives special education services. And we actually have a master contract that we're a part of through the Napa County Office of Education, SELPA. And so the terms for this agreement would be within that master contract. And this is for a student who's new to us this year. And then the final contract, there it is, with Napa Valley Limousine Services. And so this is a contract. We're renewing and updating this agreement with this company who provides transportation student services for currently for one of our students who's been attending a non-public school placement in Santa Rosa for many years. And it's come time to renew this agreement and then add an additional student, the one who will be participating in the New Directions program. And so recently we did another cost analysis with regard to this type of transportation service. For example, considering hiring our own district staff and then using the van that I'm recommending for purchase to be able to transport these students, but because of the personnel that would be required for this particular year, it's not cost effective or less expensive than contracting with this vendor for right now. But we're continuing to analyze that and then also working with staff from the SELPA on some alternative transportation services. But for the time being, we want to renew this agreement so that we can transport these students per their IEP. And then for extraordinary costs such as this, we do apply for each year and receive some reimbursement. So last year, for example, we received about $11,000 towards the cost of that service. And so with that, I would recommend that the board approve these 3 contracts over $25,000.
Any public comment? Trustees, questions or comments?
So, I think I recall that we continued to use the Napa Valley Limousine Services. Is that correct?
We've been using them for some time, and they provide a car, and they actually give us a better rate for this service than they would for somebody, corporate person or something like that using this service. And so some years ago, when we had this non-public school placement established, staff conducted some research and determined that this would be the most cost-effective method of transporting the student. And so every year we look at other solutions and options, and we're starting to see some promising options perhaps coming through the SELPA, so we're excited about that. Or it could be that in subsequent years, due to changing enrollment and factors like that, it could be that we could bring to the board a recommendation to hire some additional staff to drive the students instead. Mm-hmm. So we're continuing to evaluate those services and try and find the most cost-effective way to deliver them.
And both of these students then are being transported to Santa Rosa?
Yes, but because of the circumstances of their conditions, they need to be transported in separate vehicles.
I see. Okay.
Any other comments or questions, trustees? Is there a motion to approve contracts over $25,000?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on to 10B, which is approval of the 2017-18 unaudited actuals financial report. Ms. Annie Stubbs, please.
It's one of my favorite ones every year. And so this is the final financial report for the 2017-18 fiscal year. This table here summarizes our financial position, and so for 2017-18, for example, we had an increase to our fund balance, and the unrestricted increase was the figure there in pink, the $817,303, which allowed us to conclude the year with an ending fund balance of about $7.6 million. Of that $7.6 million, approximately $3 million is considered non-spendable or restricted or assigned. or part of the 3% required reserve, leaving us with an unassigned fund balance of about $4.5 million. And so each year we like to do a comparison with where we thought we were going to be as we closed the books for 2017-18. When I was preparing the original budget for the board, which was approved on June 21st. And so that budget report includes our 2017-18 estimated actuals. And so as we were concluding the year and building the budget for 18-19, we were going through all of our accounts and reducing budgets where we could and trying to get as close as we possibly could to actuals at that time. But of course, many months passed, and so now we're comparing that with the true actuals as we finished closing those books. And so you can see some of the differences there in revenue. Relatively small differences in increase to property taxes, for example, and some increases to some of our federal programs. We received an increase in lottery and then the STRS on behalf, which is where we have to account for the state's contribution to STRS on our books. And so with those rates increasing, we had to increase the revenue for that program. But that's rather kind of an in and out. So we reflect the revenue and then the exact expenditures that tie with that on behalf of the state. And then we received some additional donations towards the end of the year and some additional income in terms of leases and rentals. And then also comparing our expenditures with where we thought we'd be towards the end of the year, compared with actually closing the books. When we look at our certificated salaries, we came in pretty close. Under budget by about $15,000. With our classified salaries, we were under budget quite a bit more, primarily because we kept the budget in place after our supervisor of maintenance and operations resigned about mid-year. And so we just held that budget figure in place just to make sure that we didn't mistakenly pull it out in subsequent years. And then additionally, we had a little bit of a cushion, which we always want to do in employee benefits and in all of these categories. It's always good to come in under budget. We don't want to come in over budget as we close the books. And so with books and supplies, you can see that part of that was due to restricted accounts. And so we book restricted expenditures as the revenues come in. We also had in the category of textbooks, we didn't purchase as many this year. I think we wound up purchasing some for this year in the next fiscal year, so that's why we had a little cushion there. And then the supplies and materials cushion was primarily in the area of maintenance. And then with services and operating, again, here too, probably the biggest chunk was in the restricted area. And so, for example, booking with our Clean Energy Jobs Act funding, we had some expenditures booked there that we didn't wind up using in the previous year. And then the cushion in the unrestricted side of the house under services and operating was primarily in housekeeping and utilities, so PG&E and so forth. And then the board, during the August board meeting, did approve a transfer out of part of our reserve in the general fund over to Fund 17, which is our special reserve for capital outlay. And so this slide here captures our property tax history. And we presented this slide with the unaudited actuals every year for the past few years. And so in 2017-18, for example, our property taxes came in about 9.5% higher than they did in 16-17. And so you can see that number in the very far cell on the right-hand side. And so over the past years, we've received an average of about a 5.15% increase in our property taxes from one year to the next. And then the next tables summarize how we concluded 2017-18 in our other funds. And so we had a little bit of a fund balance in Fund 13, which is our cafeteria fund. And as we'll see later on in the evening when we talk about the change orders for the kitchen remodel project, we're going to be using some of that fund balance towards some of the equipment that we're going to need to finish out that program. And then we've got good balance and deferred maintenance, and that's all part of the facilities program that we bring to the board each year for approval of different projects. And then you see a higher balance now in our Fund 17 because we transferred that $1 million over there. And all of that is supports the board's goal to establish a secondary reserve of 33% of excess property taxes. And then Fund 20 is our reserve for post-employment benefits. The balance in Fund 21 is for technology allocation, and so we're spending that on infrastructure over the next few years. Fund 25 is developer fees, and again, that's one of our funds that we use for capital outlay and special projects. Fund 35 housed the $2 million that we received as hardship funding for the Performing Arts Center building, which we then transferred last year to part of it to Fund 40, our special reserve for capital outlay, and about $315,000 into Fund 01 for the ILEP program. And so with that, I would recommend that the board approve the 2017 unaudited actuals report, and you can see there what our next steps are in terms of reporting that to the county.
Is there any public comment? Trustees, questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the 2017-18 unaudited actuals?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2017-18 unaudited actual financial report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on to item 11 under facilities, and this is Facilities and Technology 2018 Summer Projects Update. Ms. Andy Stubbs, please.
Thank you. Here's some of the topics that we'll be covering this evening. And so at the primary school, we are just concluding our HVAC renovation project. We're still looking at the equipment that was put in to determine if we need to do some additional landscaping or fencing work, and we're still fine-tuning some of the controls. But for the most part, that project is complete, and it looks as if we'll be coming in under budget, which I'm really happy about. With the asphalt resurfacing and restriping project, we had some issues there. We've had some cracks in the asphalt and some of the paint peeling. And what happened there was when the contractors first came out, they didn't notice that there was some water saturation happening. And so we had turned the irrigation off 5 days prior as we were asked to, but the challenge was there's overwatering happening, and so water and silt are coming up from underneath the asphalt, which is causing the crack filler to peel up. And I'm looking at my notes here just because it's new language and information for me. And so it's happening in that section because that's the lowest point, and so water from the surrounding areas is centralizing there. And then additionally, the Napa Valley water table, I've learned, is within a couple of feet of the surface in many parts of the Napa Valley, which is why the water is traveling up through the cracks instead of going deeper down through the unsaturated zone. And so what we've done to mitigate that is we have shut off the irrigation for now. And then the company, because they didn't realize that there was still some water saturation when they did the work, they're going to come back in and do the repairs at no cost. And we're going to work with them and see if there's a different mixture that they can use that will, create kind of a layer to help avoid the saturation there. And so if those repairs don't work, and we're scheduling them now for hopefully for a weekend when the students are not there. If those repairs don't work, then we may need to go in and do a little bit more excavation and mitigation work just in that area. But the original project budget for this was $120,000, I believe, and so this work that they did wound up coming in at $27,000. So we still have a cushion in the budget if we have to do that deeper work. But we're trying to move on that pretty quickly because it's been a little problematic. And then we completed some fencing repairs, and you can see an example there, which is close to the sandbox. Here's some pictures of the one of the new HVAC units, and we do want to look and see if we can maybe put some landscaping around that, just for aesthetics. And then at the elementary school, we are still in the throes of our kitchen cafeteria renovation project, and I've learned today that now we're expecting completion, I believe, September 24th, but we're working with staff to make sure that all that goes smoothly. It's actually been going very well out there the past couple of months with the students eating outside and the pop-up tents that we have, and they've actually really enjoyed that with this nice fall weather. And that kind of temporary central kitchen that we've set up the central kitchen down here at the high school. And then additionally at the elementary school, we concluded some roof repairs on buildings G and H, and 3 major maintenance projects at the Boys and Girls Club this summer. And we have a joint use agreement with them, and so the district's contribution towards these projects was about 1/3 of the cost. And then in the world of technology at the elementary school, they received some new touch Chromebooks, and I'm hearing that the students really like those devices. And you can see the kitchen work. It's looking a lot better. This picture's from maybe 3 weeks ago, and so we've definitely made some progress there. And then that's the gym floor refinished in the Boys and Girls Club. Over at RLS this summer, we had a front office refresh, and so we added and rearranged some furniture and did some interior painting. And then also we had a classroom projection audio technology refresh, and I'm told that the teachers are really enjoying working with those interactive screens. And then we did a flooring replacement project and the Chromebook refresh at RLS as well. And there's a little snapshot in the middle there of some of the new furniture and one of the interactive screens in the left-hand corner. And then at the high school, we also did a front office refresh, adding and rearranging some furniture, and we did a facelift in the library with new flooring and internal painting. Beautiful, bright new seating out in the quad. You may have noticed those red aluminum benches out there. And then gym flooring there, some tree trimming, and removal of the large redwood that was in front of the PAC. And a laptop refresh. And there's, I really like how the gym floor turned out. It's very vibrant. And then in the area of district-wide technology, we did add a new online visitor registration system, which was approved by the board last spring, and it's intended to promote safety for students, staff, and visitors alike. And it's a neat system. It prints out a little badge with a visitor photo on it. And it's got some great features with some analytics that we can do to take a look at who's visiting and some pre-registration options. Our crew was really, I think that's probably why I'm still out of breath, our crew really was working hard all summer long, and they completed about 63 work orders, and there's some samples there of some of the things that they did. We have a few projects that remain that are already board approved, for example, the press box, and we saw some delays there due to Department of State architect approvals and some manufacturing delays. We think that the manufacturer wound up getting overcommitted a little bit with and becoming inundated with work, and so that threw us off a little bit. We have learned that DSA is wanting us to add an accessible walkway out there, even though there won't be a lift to get up there. And so we've gone back and forth with DSA a little bit, but at the end of the day, that work will benefit the mitigation work that we still have to do for the field and concession stand, which is the project that's referenced down below. So we'll be bringing that information to the board soon, and then the demolition of the old press box is scheduled for November after football season, with installation of the new box planned for March. With a couple of the other projects that have already been board approved, for example, the roof rafter repairs at the high school, that one we want to go ahead and go out to informal bid on now that we are part of the KUPCA. I can't remember all the words. It's a big acronym. The process allows us to go out for informal bidding up to $175,000. Our architect of record had one of his engineers come out and take a look at our weight room, and we've determined that we can probably mitigate the issue, the problems that we've had in there with humidity, by adding some new HVAC units that have dehumidifiers. And so we think that that's going to come in considerably under the $150,000 budget that the board approved some time ago. Flooring replacement at the elementary school had been board approved, and we were just talking about that with elementary school staff. We've got a plan to do some refreshing of that this December, but then do the full replacement probably next summer, just because of some conditions, and we'll be sharing that information with the facility committee, and then that'll come back to the board. And then staff has been working with a landscape architect who will provide us with a plan for both irrigation and planting that we can refer to and use moving forward. So we're looking forward to receiving that sometime mid-month. And so next steps for us, we just began today, in fact, a series of meetings with each of the principals and with Joe Perez, our Director of Facilities and Aquatics, and also Brian Clark, our Senior Maintenance Specialist lead, to go around to each school and determine what the next round of small-scale projects should be. We're going to be in a little bit of a holding pattern on some of the larger projects, and we want to take a little bit of a break next summer. But we have those site assessments in hand as we go around and look at each of the buildings and rooms. And so then we'll prepare an updated project list for the board, which we will first bring to the facilities committee, followed by a board presentation. So that would conclude our report.
Any public comment? Trustees, questions, comments?
I don't have any questions because you did a great job with all of this. So thank you very much. And my comments were, I'm very happy with everything that happened this summer. It looks great. The primary school, the blacktop looks fabulous out there. It's nice and bright. It looks. I mean, I'm looking forward to going into RLS and checking things out. So thank you for everyone's hard work on this one. This is a big one.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the cafeteria too.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the fact that we are so heavily involved in maintenance of our facilities. It's something to build something brand new and have it be done, and then not to care for it and take care of it. And we, to me, we're addressing everywhere we need to address for our students and for our staff. And I'm just very happy with this very well thought out plan. And thank you for taking the time to give it to us over a period of time and then giving us chunks on it. And I mean, obviously we did a lot this summer, considering there's no bond projects. There was still a lot going on. So anyway, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to.
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
I'd like to comment just and say thank you to the staff for doing all their hard work this summer. It's definitely noticeable across the board. A lot of the parents are very happy about new technology, new maintenance, or new repairs and everything. So, and yeah, the Envoy system, it works great. I used it this morning at kindergarten class, so the kids like to see the pictures of the parents.
Very good. Item 11B under facilities, approval of change orders number 1 and 2 to the contract for the St. Helena Elementary School kitchen cafeteria renovation project. Ms. Andy Stubbs.
Thank you. And the board is asked to approve 2 change orders for this project this evening. The first is for $20,784, and it includes 2 items that were requested actually by the district. Some shelving for the amount of about $414, and then also flooring abatement in the food services director's office, and that cost approximately $12,000. And so replacing the flooring in that office was not part of the original scope of work, but it was on our deferred maintenance list. And so we were going to contract out and have somebody else come and do the abatement, but we determined it would just be less expensive to have the contractor do it. And so doing that on a separate PO. And then change order number 2, we've got 10 items there, and all but one of those resulted in differing and unforeseen conditions at the site. And so with these change orders combined, I anticipate that we were still within our budget of $1.62 million for now, but the project's 90% complete, and we are thinking we're going to have another round of change orders. And so at this point, we're anticipating that amount to be approximately $20,000. And so I think that we will wind up exceeding our budget a bit, but we are recouping some with our HVAC project. And even the asphalt project at the end of the day. And then also we can use the balance that we've got in Fund 13, the cafeteria fund, towards some of the additional equipment that we're going to need to purchase, because the freezers, for example, we had thought we could maybe utilize some from the culinary, but it turned out that we couldn't, so we're going to have to purchase a couple of freezers. And those are at a pretty nominal cost, but it's every little thing kind of adds up. So our project team is working really diligently with the contractors to try and stay on top of them and contain these costs. And so now we're kind of in the home stretch and just wanting to finish it up and release it back to the staff and students. So with that, I would recommend that the board approve change orders 1 and 2 for the elementary school kitchen project.
Is there any public comment? Trustees, questions or comments?
I just have a question. The hazardous material abatement in the restroom, are those the restrooms that are closed now? That there's the one that's not being used, right? So that would be so then we can use that restroom again? Or am I remembering wrong that we're not using the one restroom there?
I'm not certain. I'll have to check and report back to the board.
Which restroom are you referring to?
I thought that there was a restroom that wasn't being used, or maybe that was a temporary thing, that maybe it was backed up.
There are 2 restrooms outside of the cafeteria, and those are being remodeled for use.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We are not using the restrooms out in the portable that's out in the field that was at one time bathrooms.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, thank you.
Tanya may be able to clarify that one.
Yeah, my understanding was that one restroom was going to be made to be just used by adults, but there had been a girls' restroom that was open, and that's not going to be used any longer. Though that space may be being remodeled into a closet or something like that, or space. But definitely there is an adult restroom that I remember.
Yeah. So I can look into that more and report back.
Any other questions or comments? No. Is there a motion to approve the change orders 1 and 2?
I'll make a motion to approve change orders number 1 and 2 for the St. Helena Elementary School Kitchen Cafeteria project.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on to 11C, approval of change order number 1 to the contract for St. Helena Primary School HVAC renovation project.
And we just have one change order anticipated for this project, and it's in the amount of $12,296, and it includes 2 items: a condenser relocation, which was requested by the project team, and then also the installation of some motor switches, which did result from a differing site condition. And so if the board approves this change order, we'll still be well within our budget on this project, and I would recommend approval.
Any public comment? Everyone's gone. Okay, I guess we can skip that part. It'll speed up the meeting. Trustees, any questions or comments?
No.
One, just for clarification, so the condenser location initially was just outside the teacher's lounge. They want to move it from there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve change order number 1 at the primary school?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on to item number 12 under consent agenda. Is there any items that the trustees wish to pull off consent agenda?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are on to communications, board member reports. Trustee Howe.
Okay, so the first time I actually did a PowerPoint.
Nicely done.
And the crowd is ecstatic. Oh, Brandon Lowe, we got one back.
There we go. So just in time for the first ever PowerPoint presentation by myself here. So the RLS, I wanted to just cover 3 highlights of my visit and talk with Corinne. The wellness portion of the RLS, we used to have a segment of time that was directed by teachers in the afternoon. I believe it used to be after 5th period. And now wellness has moved to the beginning of the school day. It's 3 minutes, and it is guided it's a guided mindfulness or a guided quiet period given out over the loudspeakers. So it is the same for all students. And so that everyone has a place to kind of sit and basically calm down after their hectic morning of getting to school. The students that are doing PE first period actually go into a classroom where they can sit and take part in the mindfulness. And it seems to be a little more what the students from the primary school are used to, because they were already doing something similar in the morning assembly at the primary school. And the students, Corinne said that the students that have been at RLS also adapted well to this new format, because they were already used to having the mindfulness minutes. And I think that some of the teachers that weren't as comfortable doing the mindfulness leading the wellness minutes leading, they're happy as well. So it's been a success all around. Next slide would be the book that all the RLS students and teachers are reading is Refugee. It is the book for this year's Napa County Reads. The author will be visiting the RLS this spring to speak, so I think that's a great opportunity. It's a story of 3 12-year-olds in 3 different time frames of history. And I've started reading it myself. It's fascinating. It's written for middle school levels, so it's a quick read, but very interesting, even for adults. The first, and each story is just a couple pages, and it jumps from one character to the next. So it's very engaging, very easy to read. The first child is a 12-year-old boy, a Jewish boy growing up in Nazi Germany. The second is a 12-year-old Cuban girl in the early 1990s in Cuba. And the third is a 12-year-old Syrian boy currently going through the Syrian civil war. And students and teachers are reading. And I think it's a really great book for anyone to read. Thirdly is, and we saw some of this, the RLS front office facelift, and you just have to see it. I would be happy to go back to RLS, even though middle school is like usually one of the worst parts of your life. But it is such an inspirational office to walk into. It's bright. Corinne, I wish she was here, because she explained to me how she actually used her own credit cards to put all these beautifully lettered phrases up on the walls. They're inspirational messages and quotes, and just a lot of kind of uplifting things to look at while you're either waiting for something in the office, or whether you come in the morning and have to sign that tardy slip. So anyway, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Subcommittee Reports, 13B. Let's see, we had a board policy committee that met Thursday, August. Do you want me to touch on that, or do you want to talk about it, Maria?
Either or, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're going to be addressing it later.
Right.
But, so.
All I was going to say is it was mostly legalese that kind of came through, and there's a lot of corrections of changes that had to do with that. Very little choices that had to be done, and then the big policy that we've been working on, the 5117, and then .1, the AR and the BR board policy, is under further review of looking at an idea to expand or to change things. So it's nothing to happen yet. More looking at staff interpretation on those. Preschool for All, Jeannie?
Yes, so we had a meeting on Monday, and it was the meeting was a little bit different in the sense of that it was more of a like a brainstorming kind of a meeting, kind of thinking about the new year and looking into the future a little bit, and we just brainstormed about different committees. So we put some committees together, and so we were a working board before, but we're very much more of a working board now. So we're making a lot of headway with the Preschool for All. Yeah.
Great. Mr. Farrell, do you wish to address the board for the St. Helena Teachers Association?
Thank you. However, my entire audience that I was going to address just vanished on me.
How do you think we feel? And you're going to leave after you give this report. Yes, I know what's going on.
Exactly. So, the order of this board meeting has kind of messed with me too a little bit, but I do want to thank the principals, especially for, I've heard numerous comments and compliments about how well organized our site principals have been at the beginning of the school year. Seemingly lots of things change from year to year, as you well know, and it's been a real smooth transition into the new school year, and it feels like before we know it, it's going to be Christmas break and everything's behind us. So I do want to mention that our site principals have done a good job. They were supposed to be here for this, the compliments, but I do want to mention that. And also our district administration has done a great job as well, giving us the things that we need to be successful. And our whole teaching unit membership has really stepped up their game over the summer and the first few months. I really want to acknowledge them in my group, because I don't get to acknowledge my whole group very often, and they have worked really hard to get this year started off on the right foot and challenging the kids and taking the EL approach. Some of the things we're doing with EL are really sinking into our teachers, I believe. So thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farrell. Dr. Mary Lou.
Of announcements for you this evening, and Erica is going to show each one of them on the screen as I am talking. Reminder to our outside community, if you're interested in applying for District of Choice, applications will be available through November 30th and are due on November 30th. Those can be obtained through the district website, here at Vintage Hall, or at any one of our school sites, and can be submitted either in person, in mail, or scanned and electronically sent to Erica Madrigal. We do have, as you recall from our last board meeting, a number of parent education nights coming up, and the next one, or the first one, is Screenagers, Growing Up in the Digital Age. That will be on September 19th at 6:30 here in the Performing Arts Center, and we will have childcare provided by Up Valley Family Center. So we do expect and hope for a large turnout for Screenagers, Growing Up in the Digital Age. The St. Helena Public Schools Foundation and all of the parent groups are hosting once again the Sip and Support kickoff to the school year. That is on September 26th at the Cliff Family Tasting Room, and it begins at 4:30. Each of our principals and potentially some of our teachers and maybe some students will be speaking about the impact of either the parent group support or the foundation grants. And so I do encourage many of you to join that event. It is also a fundraiser for the foundations and the parent groups. So Please join us for sip and support. St. Helena Hospital is partnering with us this year. They have offered a conversation on teen depression and anxiety. It will be here in the Performing Arts Center on the 3rd of October, beginning at 5 o'clock. And so we're looking forward to learning more about teen depression. And then finally, board members, I encourage you when you take a look at the principals reports that you note that we have one more addition. Last year we added Students of the Month. Our principals are now also acknowledging Volunteers of the Month on each of their principals reports. And so we're excited to learn more about specific volunteers and what they're doing to serve our schools. We know that there's many more of them, and it's really a representation of all of our volunteers. Thank you.
They're also on the website, I noticed as well, that they put the Volunteer of the Month on their websites, which is really nice.
Thank you. We are on to item number 14, board-related items. This is information and approval of the revision of board policies, August 2018 recommendations. Mr. Chris Heller, please.
Tonight, the board policies that you had mentioned earlier, there are several that are in compliance with things that we've talked about in the past with immigration. Oh, I'm sorry. I hear my own voice. Tonight with the board policies, many of them are in compliance much better, yeah. That we talked about in terms with immigration and other law compliance. I do want to point out in the middle there was a board policy that we are not taking action on catastrophic leave. That was just a discussion item. But I don't believe there's anything that I would point out as controversial, and so I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Is there any public comment? See, if you leave, Brendan, I don't even have to ask that. Trustees, any questions or comments? Trustees, are you comfortable if we make this an action item? Would there be a motion to approve the suggested changes?
Yes, I mean, it's
uncomfortable.
prepared to be an action item, I thought, actually.
Well,
Okay.
I will add that we all agreed that there were no real issues. That during the policy committee meeting, there was no real discussion as to why these were recommended.
Right. Normally these are always info and then action, possibly the next month. But if we can double duty them, if there's not issues, then that's why we do it.
Got it.
So, is there a motion to approve these changes as that are posted?
I'll make a motion to approve the revision of board policies as presented.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motions passes or carries. Item number 14B, update on the review of board policy 5117 and 5117.1. Dr. Mary Lou Wilson.
Yes, and Ms. Madrigal, could I clarify, is it 5117 or 4117?
Oh, it's 5117.
Okay, so we do have a typo in the background information. So we'll correct that typo. Just wanted to reiterate a little bit of what President Conwell mentioned. This board policy, I received direction from you as a board at the last meeting to take this to the committee for review, both the policy and the administrative regulation. And there was much discussion in board policy in the meeting we had last week, and there was some direction given to do additional research around the numbers of district of choice students, the number of inter-district transfers that we have, and how all of those enrollments could potentially continue to impact our school district. In addition, there was some other interesting brainstorming that was going on that will continue, and I've now been given direction by the board policy committee to report back to them at their October meeting about potential solutions and ideas for this board policy. So continuing to work, and more to come in October.
Is there any public comment? Trustees, any questions or comments? Okay. Item 14C is a discussion on the current vision, mission, belief statements, and priorities of the St. Helena Unified School District. Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, please.
Yes, thank you. As you know, as I enter into my 5th year with you as your superintendent, I know that the vision and belief statements that the district holds have been in place for a number of years, and the 2 district priorities have been in place for 4 years. And so President Conwell and I thought that it was again appropriate to begin the conversation around where we are and where we want to be. So as a review, the vision statement that is posted on our district website that's a part of our LCAP is on the screen. You know that that's all about innovation and high expectations. The statement in green at the bottom lives on our website right below the St. Helena Unified School District name. High expectations lead to high achievement. So you'll see that on every slide because that is a tagline on our district website. The mission statement has been in place for a number of years as well, and that's all about opportunities and resources so that our students are able to reach their highest potential. And I believe these belief statements have been in place for a number of years as well. I'll let you take a moment to look at those belief statements, which my understanding is that those are all about all of us, educators, teachers, students, parents, that those are belief statements for all of us. And then success for all is one of our major priorities, and over the last couple of years, the LCAP steering committee has refined and created bullets to define what success for all means. What you see here are the most current refinements: the challenging and inspiring, critical thinking, creativity, communication, ensuring that all of our practices support students in their desires for college and or career and equal opportunity. And then professional excellence, for the most part, really speaks to our employees, and at the same time, we believe in professional excellence for all of us, our employees, our students, our community. This really speaks to ensuring that we have high levels of professional development, that all of our employees are working to learn and grow, and that we improve communication and work with our families in a meaningful way with regards to engagement and community partnerships. There we go. So then I would ask President Conwell that you would entertain a conversation with the board with some questions or potential questions, and certainly more conversation that the board members may want to bring into play. Do the vision, mission, and belief statements represent St. Helena Unified School District accurately? Are the vision, mission, and belief statements relevant? And do they represent who we are or where we want our district to be in the future? And then with regards to the 2 district priorities, does Success for All continue to support the priority of the school district? And does professional excellence continue to support our priorities? Is there a priority missing? So after you entertain those questions and any other questions you might have, I would look for some next steps and some direction for myself and staff as we move forward in this school year and prepare for not only 18-19 as we are, as Brandon said, almost through, as we prepare for the 19-20 school year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any public comment? Trustees. This is basically just come forward because Jeannie and I have been on the board 10 years, 8, 9, I don't know, 25 years, something like that. And we haven't done anything with these. With the mission statement, the first 3. And to me, it was kind of like, well, is this really us? Originally, when we joined the board, there was a strategic planning group. They were brought in with CSBA, and they were developing things on the walls, and we were kind of creating things that way. And so I'm opening it up to you guys to say, how are you? How are you with these things? Do you think we should look at them? What do you think? And Jeannie, I'm going to pass it to you right away because you're.
For me, yeah, I have to say that our 2 priorities, success for all students and professional excellence, I'm very, very happy with those remaining the same. I'm fine with that. I do have to say that when I do see the mission statement and vision and beliefs and stuff, I think that it's very relevant. But I also know how long ago it was when we discussed those, when we put those together. And I think, and I believe that the vision. One of them, the mission statement, I think, was something that was even prior to our time, which is fine as well. But I think we might need to maybe revisit those just to see, it's a new, and I say this to my husband a lot. That's because it's the only person in my house anymore. So, it's a new group of parents. It's a new group of parents, and their thoughts may be different about things and what's important to them, and what, and just kind of, I think if there's a way that we would be able to get more, their thoughts on this as well, that would be great. That would be great. That's just my thought anyway on this.
So, I was kind of excited by this agenda item, I got to say. First I was looking, I'm like, well, this is interesting that it's there, but I spent quite a bit of time Googling mission statements for different public schools throughout the country. And as much as I thought, okay, ours was relevant, for sure, it had all the right vocabulary, it had all the right priorities, it was really not all as encompassing as a lot of other schools are. And so I took a lot of wordsmithing notes, and so I think there's some room to give it a facelift, for lack of a better word. The structure's there, the foundation's there, but I think there's some new things to include in it as we move forward in education in the 21st century and all that kind of stuff. So I would think that it would be good to look at that.
Maria and Julio? Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing I was worried about is us coming out with a new vision and mission statement without going through the community process, the organic process where we involved parents, teachers, staff, community members. I think if we change these, we have to have the same sort of input. But I do agree, you don't want your mission and vision statement to become stale or pat. And I think that because it is who we are, we should, I'm glad that we're looking at it. I think they're not, like you said, they're nice, but maybe it could be a little more inspiring or relevant to today than, I'm sure it was very relevant 10, 12 years ago or 8 years ago, but change is good, and I think we could beef it up a little bit too. But I would prefer more of a, I don't want to say the committee word, but there I said it. But maybe there could be some sort of input from our stakeholders.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. To me, I mean, partly it looks structurally, it looks good, and I've read it a few times, obviously, through the course of my kids being in school. But yeah, definitely the community output or input would be great, just to get everyone on board and just to change it a tiny bit. But I think for the most part, it looks pretty good, but could do a little cleanup work with some of the words.
So, Dr. Wilson, is there anything that you could envision that would be reaching out to our stakeholders in something we already have, rather than creating? I'm assuming we're not trying to create anything new. We want to get feedback, and we want to get some ideas from our stakeholders. Do you have any thoughts on what it might be possible to do that?
I do. If you recall, our LCAP steering committee was at one time called the Strategic Planning Committee. And we moved it into LCAP steering because we have an LCAP now, the Local Control Accountability Plan. That steering committee is made up of administrators, teachers, myself, and also parents. And I would suggest that we take this task to the LCAP steering committee to develop some structures to obtain stakeholder feedback. We already have one in place that we could potentially use with regards to the parent forums that we hold in March. There potentially could be some work around the mission and vision during those meetings. And I think that the steering committee would easily be able to identify other avenues to bring in the voices of students and the community and our parents. So I would recommend that we move this task to the LCAP steering committee.
Trustees, everybody comfortable with that idea? And then that way it reaches out to everyone and then kind of comes back to us, of course, as always, as being the board. But that way we get the widest input.
Right, right.
Everybody's comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
May I clarify if we are taking the mission, vision, and belief statements only, or are we also looking at the 2 district priorities?
I'm happy with the district priorities as they stand.
For me, I would just want a pulse check.
Yeah, I think I would kind of agree with that.
So I'm
okay.
A pulse. Would you guys be okay with that if they're
yeah,
just said?
you know what, just to say
yeah,
what they
this
think.
is-
You know,
I
but
mean, I think for the sake of adding one more thing in there, it's not. I think it's good. Check in on it. In my opinion.
yeah, I do, but I just want to, in my mind though, I just want to make sure that we have a wide array, I guess is right, a wide group of parents, a group of parents, community, you know what I mean, teachers, all, that we have a diversified group in looking at this too, you know what I mean, and weighing in on it. That would be my only thought with that.
Absolutely. And our plan this year is to, with regards to the parent forums, each of our administrators, Andy Stubbs, Chris Heller, Mary Ellen, and I will hold a parent forum. The principals will hold theirs at their school sites with a particular group and or additional parents. And then the 4 that the executive officers will be holding will be made up of invites to all of our parents. So an invite will go out to everyone. Historically, we haven't gotten a lot of responses when we do that. And so then we start inviting. And so we'll do both to make sure that we get a good cross-selection of parents.
Thank you. Dr. Wilson, does that give you enough to work with? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
14, board-related items. Number D, requests to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. Vice President Ms. Pelosi, would you mind reading these wonderful donations?
Absolutely, my pleasure. The board is asked to accept with gratitude the following donations. St. Helena High School has received the following donations totaling $24,709 in the amount of $4,000 from the Saints Athletic Association for donated to volleyball. Do you want me to do description as well, or just those 3 things?
Yeah,
okay. $1,599 from the Saints Athletic Association donated to ASB football. $7,000 donated by J.P. Morgan Charitable Giving Fund, Coppola family, to the St. Helena High School Arts Program. $1,500 from Jack Davies, St. Helena High School FFA. $500 from Elena Dunlop, 2020 Scholarship Fund. $500 from Appalachian St. Helena for the 2018 Scholarship Fund. $500 from Gerald Smith for the 2018 Scholarship Fund. $1,000 from Joanne Junie for the 2018 Scholarship Fund. $1,500 from Grace Episcopal Church for the 2018 Scholarship Fund. $3,000 from the American AG Credit for the 2017 Scholarship Fund. $3,195 from Steve Carlin for the St. Helena High School Music Department. $375 from Herdell Printing for ASB football. $40 from James Fisher for St. Helena High School special day class. right? Your special day class, yes. Totaling $24,709. Thank you very much to everybody for your generosity.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment? Trustees, any questions about these wonderful gifts and donations? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on to item 14E, which is District of Choice Report 2018-2019. Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, please.
Yes, this is the annual report that I give to you each year indicating where we are with District of Choice as a result of the lottery from the January 2018 board meeting for the 18-19 school year. The first portion of the report does give the background on District of Choice, and I'll allow you to read that on your own. Looking at the first chart in the report, that shows you the final total number of applications, which is a review for you of the that we received for the 18-19 school year. And so if you look at the bottom of that chart, you'll see that we had 75 applications for District of Choice this year. And then you'll remember in, I believe it was January of 18, we also took a look at the enrollment caps, and I did recommend that we increase the enrollment caps in 9th grade through, in 6th grade through 12th grade, and you approved that recommendation, which increased the number of students we could accept for this school year. The next chart, the rather big one there, shows you the process that we then went through. Erica Madrigal and I monitor enrollment. We take a look at the trends in enrollment that we have over the course of the last number of years, and then we also have to adhere to the cap. So if you look at, for example, TK is an easy one. We had 4 applications. The enrollment at the time of our census in May 14, although it's not there, I can tell you, was 6 students. And because the cap there is 12, we then granted all 4 of those District of Choice applications to attend our schools. And then if you read over, you'll note that 3 of those 4 accepted the spots in our school. So that chart is an interesting one. I thought that of most interest to you would be grade 9. You might remember during lottery we had 17 DOC requests, and we did allow or accept all 17 because at the May census we had 86 8th graders coming into 9th grade. If you read across on that chart, you'll see that 4 of those 17 accepted seats in our high school, and yet we still have 135 9th graders. So an interesting year we have with regards to enrollment. And if you take a look at the bottom line of 18-19 enrollment, you'll see that we are at 1,269 students TK-12 in our district. The last couple of charts will be new to you as a result of the updated board policy. It is required every year that you have an opportunity to see some of the demographics of students who are District of Choice. Currently, food service programs, we have 12 of our students on District of Choice that are receiving free or reduced lunch. You'll need to remember also the application window is still open for free lunch, and so that could increase with time. We're also required to share with you the gender, and so you can see there are male and female gender, and then also ethnicity. That concludes my District of Choice report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Is there any public comment? Trustees, any questions or comments?
No, I don't have. My comment was this is very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
It almost makes it look like we're no longer in declining enrollment.
Chief Business Official Andy Stubbs will be very proud of me to hear me say, this is not a trend. 1 year is not a trend.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I do have a question. And I should know this, but because we take a snapshot, I believe it's on May 15th when we do that. And I look at our kindergarten, for example. And obviously we had less than what our cap of 75 was at that time frame.
Yes.
So by this district of choice, we accepted all 17 because we seemed like we were going to have a huge empty hole, and we indeed have, our cap has gone above 14 because of, so that May 15th, is that a statute date of the of the district of choice? So does it have to be that May 15th? That's my question. I don't know.
Ms. Madrigal, you're going to help me out with this. It is in our board policy that it be by that May 15th date. And so, yes, and so that just to confirm for you, the enrollment at the May 14th, 2018 census for our kindergarten was 49.
Right. So that's part of the district of choice, or is that us?
It is part of the district of choice board policy.
Because I was thinking about that date, and I was just trying to figure that out. Okay, all right. It just doesn't allow us to plan well, because the only thing we can do is push kindergarten enrollment early. Right?
Which we do.
Right, which you do.
We
there's
do.
Signs up for months.
There's signs up for months. It goes in the newspaper. I know that Ms. Sanguinetti reaches out to the preschools. And we had a record-breaking number of families registering students the day before and the day of school, not just at the primary school, at all 4 of our schools.
Wow.
It was record-breaking.
Okay.
Yeah. We enjoy the students that we have.
That's right.
It's
No,
it's
right.
fabulous.
It's just interesting. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is though, so when I'm looking at this though, so we won't really, there'll be only one grade that we'll be able, no, there's a couple grades where we're able to do, that will have availability next year.
Yeah.
Not very many though.
Potentially,
Yeah.
there are times when students move during the year, and so we will monitor enrollment regularly. And as we move forward during the district of choice process, I'll keep you updated as to where we are and the number of applications that we receive.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. No, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on that one? Nope. Item 14F, information discussion of the 2018 board principles. Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, please.
Yes. If you look at the face of the board, we all know that we have new board members that have joined the governing board over the course of the last couple of years. And so President Conwell took this opportunity in a closed session around negotiations to spend time with the 5 of you in developing guiding principles in the effort to continue to ensure that we have open lines of communication with our employees, and that we are promoting a positive employee-employer relationship. And so while the guiding principles certainly are not a strategy or a method to negotiate, they certainly are a method in order to, as I said, keep those lines of communication open. It's in draft form right now. As a governing board, you directed both myself and Trustee Haug to take a look at the draft and do some wordsmithing. That has occurred with a couple of very minor changes. President Conwell, I welcome you to entertain a conversation with the board around this draft. And if ready, we will bring it back to you as an action item at the October board meeting.
Is there any public comment on this item? Trustees, comments, questions on this, on the board principles as they're drafted?
I like it. I think it looks great. Something I feel good in.
It really says a lot about our I was going to say the teachers, but all of our employees and our students about how important both of them are to us as a board and as a district. So that's how I look at it.
I just want to kind of state what a great resource CSBA is in helping us guide through these instruments that other boards have done, and that we can use, and through their experience make our district stronger.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This was obviously something new to me, and that CSBA presentation was very helpful, and it was great to be able to work and brainstorm and collaborate with board members on this.
So I will clarify, it was SF Squared that we contracted with, so that's just, no, it's okay. No, I just wanted to make sure we gave the credit.
Both are very good resources.
Good, right? there are two resources, so I mean, it's, yeah, that's right. Does anybody have any changes at all that they see on this draft that they would like to have changed prior to the next board meeting?
I don't.
Okay.
I think the draft looks well. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yes. It's Maria's work, so she has to agree with it. Okay. At this point, if we can we'll bring that back for action next.
That'd be great.
Thank you. We are down to item number 15A, which is future agenda items. We should number these bullets, so that way I don't have to like add them up and figure out all this stuff we got going on. Anybody have anything they'd like to add to next month's agenda, or something in the future that would like to?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
No.
Maria, head shake. Are we good? Okay.
Is the principles going to be on there that we just discussed?
Principal. Yeah. As you know, this is where we take it from the governance calendar, and we just put all that down. Then, of course, it gets massaged quite a lot. That takes us to adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
817.
And President Conwell, if we could welcome our YouTube followers, we do have people watching tonight on YouTube.
Do we?
And live
How many do we
streaming.
have?
Well, I'm not sure that Ms. Madrigal can actually tell us.
3.
We had 3.
Okay. All right.
So-
We're moving up in the world.
Welcome to our followers.
Thanks
All
for
right.
watching.
Bye.
Welcome, YouTubers.
Ben says he's watching Channel 7.